Battle Reports. Today we are doing the Battle of Hoth using Star Wars miniatures, and actually this is also the beginning of a role-playing game. Yes, we're going to have on a separate channel some role-playing games, and it's starting with one of these. These are three of your characters that are going to be in it. You're going to see them throughout this particular battle just kind of running off the board. That's just because that's the beginning of their storyline. They start at the Battle of Hoth and it's going to continue on from there. You're going to be able to see them. I'll put the link on there so you can continue to watch their story. In the meantime, this is, as many of you know about, the Battle of Hoth. Essentially, this is not the whole battle, obviously. This is supposed to be kind of like the back area, you know, where essentially the Imperials are breaking in. Right there you can see there's some of the troopers here, some more snowtroopers. We had to fill them in with regular stormtroopers. We didn't quite have enough. But anyway, there are a couple of ATSTs and Darth Vader is in there with them. So, yeah, they're going to be coming in here. We don't have any AT-ATs coming in this direction, but this is kind of, like I say, the back entrance. This is where they're going to try to break through. They are going to be fighting these rebels, which we're considering to be in light cover all along here. They're going to try to, their goal is to break through them, get into this control center, destroy the control center, and they get bonus points if they manage to kill Leia and the commander there. You know, basically the lead people there, while they meanwhile get bonus points if they can hold them off and continue to survive. So those are your forces. Let's see how they do. The first turn has started with a lot of fire going back and forth, and you might see there the snow speeders have now come onto the board. Actually, they're speeders if you hear it in the movie. We always refer to them as snow speeders, but they actually say we're having trouble adjusting them to the cold. So whenever you hear about, well, they're only supposed to be used in a cold environment, actually they would be more useful in other places apparently, according to the movie itself. But anyway, I digress. They've just come onto the table at the end of the turn, so they haven't had an effect. Meanwhile, the walkers have started moving forward. They're doing some damage over here. That has caused the that big gun to be damaged. It's not destroyed. In fact, it can be repaired. But they've started to damage it. Over here, you'll see this. The rebels have cavalry. Actually, people riding on tauntauns. Yes, they may look like Luke and Han, but in this game, they're not actually, because Luke and Han are supposed to be somewhere else, and this is supposed to be like an actual like part of the battlefield or whatever. So it's people who look and act just like Han and Luke, but aren't actually. Anyway, they kind of waited until the Imperials moved forward before moving forward themselves, because when, oh, by the way, there's a cat going to be attacking them, or at least the board on the side. Anyway, they waited for the Imperials to move forwards before they got forward, and now they've run up to that particular point. They just didn't want to run up in their faces and then get hit. Next turn, they'll be able to reach to them if they go first, so that'll be a question of initiative. Anyway, this big gun did shoot back, did manage to take out one of the Imperials, but a lot of the shooting was at such long range, they're not able to really do any damage to each other yet, so really it's going to be next turn to determine what's going on. Meanwhile, you can see the heroes from the role-playing game are starting to move out in that direction. Oh yes, I forgot to mention one guy here. It was very important I was reminded. This is Fred. Fred shot over here, took out one of the rebels. I was terrible for forgetting that particular one. Thank you to my opponent for reminding me of that. Now on turn 3, everybody is fully engaged in one way or another. Over here, the stormtroopers actually got the first shot, shot the Han Solo lookalike. He's kind of like, I guess, an Elvis impersonator, only a Han impersonator. But he survived, he got wounded, but he's still alive, so he ran up, killed the snowtrooper, and the stormtroopers stayed where they were so they could get more effective shots. That did slow them down from being able to get further. Their long-range shot, or their large gun, is killing a guy, and another one was killed over here by the ATST, which is now being flown at by a speeder who has already shot at them, doing some damage to them. Meanwhile, another stormtrooper over here has been taken down by, actually not the big gun. The big gun spent its turn getting repaired. It was a lucky shot by these guys, and speaking of lucky shot, they actually got a shot over there at one of the stormtroopers, and the Luke Skywalker impersonator went up and killed one of them, and the survivors have shot back at him and got some wounds to him as well. So the cavalry is wounded on both fronts, but they're both still alive. The ATST that's shooting is turned towards the speeder. They traded shots, they've both done some damage to each other, but neither one is destroyed quite yet. They're taking damage and trading it back and forth. Meanwhile, over here, our heroes are starting to run off the board towards their mission. Again, you'll be able to see their story at the role-playing site. And over here, everybody is still in their control center waiting for it to break through. The rebels are starting to lose their numbers in trying to defend that area, so it might be some trouble for them. And the action is heating up with the most obvious one right here, with the speeder being shot down by the AT-ST right at its feet there. It's a perfect visual for that. And right at the feet of Darth Vader, who is standing there essentially holding it back, saying, "You shall not pass." Yes, the villains sometimes say that too. This speeder has gone up to this walker and is flying around it. It's got its tow cable onto the AT-ST, and if it can fly around it, it may just be able to trip it. Over here, there's continuing to be firing over... Well, actually, they can't even hit them at this point because they're behind a hill. And they're staying there fighting with the Luke Skywalker impersonator, who's taking down another guy. They continue to wound him, but he's not quite down yet. He is really wounded. Can't say the same for Han Solo over here. He's been taken down, the Han Solo impersonator. So he's down, but he did slow these guys down quite a bit. They had to stay there again to shoot him. Actually, they could have moved and shot, but they wanted to make sure they took him down. Over here, these guys shot over here, took out the commander. This flank is almost completely wiped out now with all of these guys and Han Solo taken down. Vader's little entourage is getting cut down as well, with these guys shooting at him. In fact, the main gun has been repaired and is shooting over at them. Actually, it's shooting at the AT-STs, not really doing a lot, but the men are hitting there, and women, I suppose it'd be both in the Rebel Alliance here, shooting them down, but they're taking shots as well. And so far, this front is holding. Just had to get a quick shot of the Luke Skywalker impersonator there because it just looks really cool. Oh yes, and our role-playing heroes are at the edge of the board and going off to their adventure. Be sure to watch that on our Bandwagon Games channel. And the carnage continues, and the most obvious, of course, once again, is near the center here, where this AT-ST has been taken down by this speeder, who has flown around him and tripped him and taken him down. Meanwhile, Vader and his two cronies are continuing to go towards the front door. They're marching towards it. I suppose doing their Imperial march as they go. I'd like to hear them doing it a cappella. Anyway, they are shooting, and he is choking at them, taking out 3 more rebels, including their commanders. This front is now starting to be damaged, and including, actually, you may see that smoke there, although it's sort of hidden in the white there, has been damaged. The big gun has been damaged by the AT-ST, which is now turned towards that and is doing damage there. And the Luke Skywalker impersonator has finally been taken down by these stormtroopers. He just ran up there to probably just to slow them down, and he's successful at that, but they did end up taking him down in the process, so he basically sacrificed himself. The big gun has taken down the last rebel on this flank, and now this flank is completely open for these stormtroopers to go in there, although they are under the shadow of a speeder, so we'll see how that goes. Continuing on now, and the Imperials have gotten to the door. They're ready to go in there and knock some heads. Meanwhile, their reinforcements running up behind them are starting to get strafed by the speeder, and we're starting to refer to them as the Duke Boys. Yes, Luke and Bo Duke. And if you don't know that reference, then good for you, because yeah, it's probably best you don't know that. Anyway, the Duke Boys are flying by, strafing the Imperials as they go by, and one of those AT-STs now is going to be firing back at him, along with Vader right there beneath it. That is a nice little image, although it's kind of hard to see him in the dark there. Anyway, they're starting to fire back at him. They're doing damage to the speeder, who is doing damage to the stormtroopers, or snowtroopers as they might be called here. The big gun has moved. It wasn't able to fire this turn. Instead, these guys are trading fire shots back and forth, taking one-for-one basically hits. The big gun is shooting at the AT-ST, and now it's really a question of, because kind of there are 4 big guns here. There's the big gun on the bottom right, which is the speeder, the rebel big gun that's in placement on the top right. Meanwhile, then bottom left is the Imperial large gun, which can be moved, and the Imperial AT-ST up here in the top left. And so it's really a question of, because those are the big guns that can go against each other, it's really a matter of who's going to take out whom here. So that's going to be a big thing as we go along, and as the Imperials try to break in. And the Empire has truly struck back. Let's start over here with the AT-ST and the speeder, because we know that the Duke Boys are what you're really concerned about. The speeder didn't do anything to the walker. The walker did damage it. In fact, there was some question in the rules as to whether or not they destroyed it or it was still wounded. So we decided to do sort of midway point to say they're damaged, flying off the table here, smoking. They're going off. It was probably destroyed, but we weren't quite sure. So we're just saying it's having to fly off the table damaged. So the Duke boys will live to see another day. They're just sort of having to fly off the table here. Meanwhile, over here, the Imperials, as you can see, have broken through, and we can throw in that sound effect of the Imperials have entered the base. They have gotten in there. One of them has gotten killed. The rebels are behind some rubble there, trying to defend as best they can. Meanwhile, C-3PO and R2-D2 are trying to get into the main area to warn everybody to get the heck out of Dodge. And one important detail I forgot to put in there, the big gun of the rebels has now been destroyed. There's one rebel left on this side. It was a really miraculous shot from this side. I mean, it's a big gun, but it was a long shot, but he got him, took it out, and now that big gun is destroyed. And only one rebel is left over there. And now the chase is really going to be on. The Imperials have gotten into the base, followed by Darth Vader right behind there. They are shooting down the rebels. There's only one of them left guarding the place. C-3PO and R2 have gotten to the door and have warned the people inside that they need to get out of there. So now they're going to be having to get out of here. They need to come out here and go through this exit to escape, and that's going to be their only way to survive. That was the rules in the game, is basically once the Imperials went in here, the droids could start moving, and then these people were stuck in place until the droids reached them. So now they're going to be able to move, and so we're going to be able to see, basically the Imperials have clearly won this game. It's now a matter of whether or not they're going to get their bonus points. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention that the last rebel on this side was taken down by the Imperial walker. Since the ATST cannot get into there, just staying out here and taking out the last guy, which is sort of an unfair fight because this guy didn't have a gun that could take him on. The best he could do is just run off the table, but he bravely stood there against ATST and died. And now it truly has come to a foot race. The rebels are running to that door. R2 is trying to open the door to get them out of there. Meanwhile, the Imperials have been marching on in there. That's them with their ATST. They have shot down their last rebel, and so they have truly entered the base, and now is going to be a race for them to try to shoot down as many of the rebels as they can. And now the race is truly on. The Imperials had to move first, so they went up into position. The rebels came running out. They have shot. They took down 1 and 2 Imperial stormtroopers. You have the rebel trooper there and his leader, and Princess Leia's joining in with some shots while the droids are trying to get this door open. But Vader is right there and ready to do a choking on them. He is not very happy with what they're doing to his stormtroopers. In this turn, the Imperials got the first turn, and they shot and chokeholded, is that a word? I'm going to make that a word. Took down those 2 rebels. They wanted to go at Princess Leia, but in this game you have to go after the front one unless they're a scout or something like that. So they took out the leader, and they took out the trooper, and Leia was next in line, but they didn't get that third hit. And so now she is running down the hall like a little girl. Well, maybe an adult woman or whatever. Anyway, I would be running too. And R2-D2 has stayed behind, closed the door behind them in case the Imperials will come around that corner, which obviously they will be doing, because Vader's like, my daughter. You see, he's singing there. He's starting to get into an opera about wanting his daughter back. Put your song in there because I have a cold. And Leia and the 2 droids have made it safely off of the board. Yes, they're running off towards the Millennium Falcon or whatever is off in this direction. And Darth Vader is left behind with just his stormtroopers going, no! Or some other really lame thing. Anyway, he is calling out to her, wanting her back, but she's not going to come back. She has got it away safely, and all he's left with is the stormtroopers and his ATST. Well, that'll do it for us here. There was a lot of carnage, but we took it off as it went along, so you're not going to see it here, but except for the big weapons, of course. They're still on, or the vehicles. So thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about it. And also check out the role-playing game, which is going to be a combination. If you know the Star Wars role-playing game, there's 3 versions of it. We're going to have all 3 at some point or another. I'm putting the link on there again. It's going to be up there on the Bandwagon Games channel, which is a brand new one. I'll explain more about it later. But check that out. Check out that role-playing game and check out some others that are on there. It should be really fun and some really good stories. Happy gaming, everybody!